Welcome back to the Metro, broadcasting live from the Mackinac Policy Conference. I'm Robin Vincent. Michigan US Senator Gary Peters is preparing to retire after a decades-long career in politics and public service. Peters has championed Michigan's Great Lakes, leading efforts that brought nearly $1 billion in restoration funds to the state. He's passed legislation to protect the mental health of veterans. And he's fought for critical infrastructure, securing funding for the Soo Locks, a lifeline for Michigan industries. As he steps away from Washington, Senator Peters joins us to reflect on this work and what the next person elected to his seat must do as Democrats face historically low approval ratings. Senator Peters, welcome to the Metro, the Mackinac Policy Conference edition.
Well, it's great to be with you. What a great setting here for us to have this conversation.
It's quite lively.
It is wonderful.
Tell me this. Why did you decide not to run again for Senate? That is the million-dollar question.
Well, it's something that I had planned. I wasn't going to spend my whole life in Congress. I knew that when I ran for office. This is a position that I would take for a period of time, then go back into my private life. And basically, I think it's what our founders envisioned. You know, when they think about Congress, we're all citizens, and some of us go to Congress to serve our community and our country. But then you return back to private life, and that's what I'm doing. And I like to turn over pass the torch to a younger person, a new generation, new ideas. I think that's very healthy for the process. You know, when you look at my service in the House and the Senate, when I leave, I'll be 68 years old. I'll have 18 years, that's a good run.
Well, Senator Peters, I do have to point out that there are quite a few prominent politicians who do not feel that same way, that they should step aside and make way for younger leadership. And 68 is quite a few years younger than our president. And we know that President Biden also did not want to step aside. And I wonder if you can just reflect on that. Do you think that your feelings about reaching a certain age and wanting to step aside for the next generation, is that common right now in American politics?
I don't think you see a lot of that, no. But everybody has to make their own personal decision, so I'm not going to pass judgment on anyone. But I just think it's the right thing to do. Is to pass that torch. And, you know, I smile because folks say, what are you going to miss about the U.S. Senate? And I said, well, when I tell people I'm 68, they go, you are so young. You are so young. And I'm going like, I don't know.
In Senate terms, apparently.
Yeah, and I'm like, I go, do you realize that back home in Michigan, 80% of people who are 68 are probably retired. So I do believe that we got to have new energy all the time, refresh itself. Congress has to represent the energy and the future of our country, and that means a broad cross-section of people who are serving, including folks who are younger.
Senator Peters, I do have to say something, though, that I think some folks have been thinking. I mean, you're someone who likes to work with others. You pride yourself on that. Has the job of being a politician changed too much for your taste at this point?
It's harder. It's harder to find that common ground. As you mentioned, I enjoy doing. I've been able to pass more legislation that I've authored than anybody in the Senate. Last Congress, I passed more legislation than any senator in 40 years. So 40 years was a different time, but we're still able to bring that commonality together to be able to pass legislation. But I will say it's harder. There's no question. I mean, today, what gets rewarded for politicians is performative politics. The more controversial you are, the more outrageous things you say, you get more attention than if you're just rolling up your sleeves and actually passing bills.
Do you see a parallel here as someone who has stepped a little bit away from the national spotlight in comparison to some of your colleagues when it comes to being able to get things done and get bills passed?
Yeah, usually, certainly, folks who sometimes you see on TV the most they don't actually pass any legislation. I'll be perfectly honest about that.
I think we need to move to the larger theme here, and that is what's happening when it comes to Democrats and Trump. I mean, you represent a state that's voted for President Trump twice. You're a Democrat.
Right.
What do you make of President Trump?
What do I make of him?
Yeah.
I think he is basically a chaos agent. I'm very, very concerned about the way that he runs government. I think it's destructive to this democracy in so many ways. The fact that you have a president that ignores the norms that have been in place since the beginning of this country, and now just outright violating the law, and then questioning the judiciary system and having attacks against the judiciary because he doesn't agree with their opinion. And he is an individual that I am very concerned about. And I certainly hope we can turn the ship around and move us forward, because I think Donald Trump is doing great damage to our country.
Why do you think people like him, President Trump, a so-called chaos maker, in your words?
Well, I think, you look at the last election was a change election. People just wanted change. So it is certainly, we know that we have to make sure that we're delivering for the American people, and as a democracy have to deliver for the American people. And if folks think that's not happening, they're going to want to shake things up. And sometimes they just want to shake things up and say whatever happens, happens. Then if they shake things up and that person doesn't do what they want, they're going to shake it up again. And I think that's why we'll have a good Democratic year next year.
This is the Metro, broadcasting live from the Mackinac Policy Conference. I'm Robin Vincent. Our guest is U.S. Senator Gary Peters. Senator Peters, what do Democrats need to be doing right now to get on offense?
Well, I think we always have to focus on economic issues. I mean, that's really the key. What is it impacting American families? Costs are going up. How do you deal with making sure people have opportunities for jobs, for a future for their kids, quality health care? All of those debates are always incredibly important. We can't get distracted by all of the whatever distractions out in the day. And I say it works, and I know, the last 2 cycles, I ran the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee. My job was to hold the Senate, expand the Senate if possible. The first time I did it, we made history. In a midterm, we were able to not only hold the Senate, but actually expand our majority. It was the first time since 1934 when I did it the first time. This next time, unfortunately, we lost the Senate. But we lost 2 really tough places in Ohio and Montana, and yet our Senate candidates outperformed the top of the ticket by a considerable margin. And then we won in states. Nowadays, whoever wins the presidency, that Senate usually follows. It's directly correlated. That did not occur here in Michigan. It didn't occur in Wisconsin. It didn't occur in Nevada. It didn't occur in Arizona. And it was because our Senate candidates were focused on core economic issues, talking directly to people in their states. When you do that, you win, and we've demonstrated that in the Senate for the last 2 cycles when I was DSCC chair.
But more broadly, I mean, the line from Democrats when Joe Biden was in office was that they were running one of the best economies in the world. Voters didn't agree with that. What did Democrats get wrong leading up to 2024?
Well, certainly that wasn't the sentiment that people. It was interesting disconnect, and I think we still have to analyze that, because if you ask people how were you doing personally, it was something like 70% of people said, well, I'm doing okay personally. And then if you asked them, how's the economy doing? 70% said, well, the economy is terrible. But usually you don't see that kind of disconnect. Usually it's correlated. If you're doing well, you figure the economy is probably doing well. That was new. That was not something we've seen in the past. And now, since that time, you're looking at consumer sentiment right now. The gold standard for that is the University of Michigan study. And it's at the lowest level it's been since the financial crisis of 2008. So people do not think the economy is doing well now. They're very concerned we may be going into a recession. Right. They're concerned about inflation, which is very real with the tariffs that are being put in place. So you're continuing to see that disconnect with people.
What was the reason, though, for the disconnect? Is this about prices going up? I mean, why were people unhappy with the economy despite Democrats having said that it was great?
Well, I wouldn't say all Democrats were saying it was great.
Sure.
Our candidates that were running for Senate, we're not saying everything is great. We're saying we've got to fix things and we've got to make things better.
Sure.
To me, elections are always about the future, and I think some politicians make a mistake saying this is what I did in the past. I've been in politics a long time. I've never known anyone to say, thank you for doing this in the past. I'm going to vote for you. Instead, they say, what are you going to do for me tomorrow? I want to know what your future plan is. What's your vision for the future? And that's where you've got to be focused on those core economic issues for the future. And candidates who did that, certainly at the Senate level, which I was intimately involved in, they won. And they performed well above where the presidential candidate did.
Let's stay on the topic of economics. We don't have much time left, and I think it's important that we talk about the so-called big, beautiful bill. That's the bill that Republicans passed out of the House. It would give tax cuts to most Americans, but the steepest cuts will go to people making over $500,000. It will cut things like Medicaid. What do you make of the bill?
I think it's an irresponsible bill. You mentioned, first off, let's start with the cuts to Medicaid. Those are real cuts that are going to impact people in a significant way. Here in Michigan, we expect several 100,000 people are going to lose health care. That's real. And when you think of Medicaid, it's our senior citizens that are in nursing homes, it's children, it's disabled. These are some of the most vulnerable people we have who are going to suddenly find the rug pulled out from underneath them. To me, that's unacceptable. And then, as you mentioned, huge tax cuts to the wealthiest folks in our country. And when you're looking at those tax cuts, which are massive, what this bill also does, which is going to end up raising costs for everybody, is it adds $4 trillion to the national debt. Republicans always talk about reducing the debt, but they're going to be passing a bill that's going to increase the budget or the debt by a historic number of $4 trillion. And what does that do? It raises interest rates. That means what you pay for a car, you're now going to have a higher interest rate. If you try to get a mortgage.
Senator Peters, I have to jump in only because we're about to be out of time here, and there's one final point to this that I think we need to address, and that is low-income Americans of many different races and ethnicities voted for Trump in this last election, and now the Trump administration and Republicans are pushing a bill that's taking from the poor and giving to the rich. What do you think Democrats need to do to win back low-income folks to no longer appear as though it is the party of the elites and the uber-educated, and we only have about 30 seconds?
I just say to show exactly what's happening. People are going to feel it. There's no question they're going to feel these cuts. They're going to feel the impact, and you just got to make sure people understand it's Donald Trump and Republicans that are doing it to them.
Michigan Democratic Senator Gary Peters, thank you so much for joining us today on the Metro.
Great to be with you.
From the WDET newsroom, Stellantis has found its next leader in-house. The automaker is promoting its chief quality officer, Antonio Filosa, to chief executive officer. He'll replace Carlos Tavares, who resigned last year. The Trump administration has cut funding for a statewide research program. The program monitors wastewater for COVID, influenza, RSV, and norovirus. One of the project researchers at Central Michigan University says her team's work was important because it was able to prevent outbreaks of certain illnesses. Michigan is suing the federal government to reclaim the grants. Coming up, how do colleges get more young people interested in attending their schools? We'll talk with a representative from Michigan State University about what's important to highlight when it comes to pursuing higher education. This is WDET-FM, Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation, and this is the Metro. Stay with us.